Covering the Universal Orlando Resort for over 5 years, you are listening to the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 232 of the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. I am Lee and joining me is Tracy.
Hello.
We have a special guest in the background. We shall introduce him in a minute. Due to scheduling issues, Darren and Hunter are not here. Things got ballsed up. We were supposed to be doing this last week and things happened, and then we were supposed to be doing it yesterday and internets went down, and so we're now sat doing it on Sunday night. But before we get into that, I did actually want to briefly sort of acknowledge what happened when the internet blew up on Friday. If you've listened to our episode 230 when we had Jim Hill on, he off the cuff kind of mentioned that Warner Brothers had been in talks with Rupert Grint, Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe about a cursed movie trilogy. Cursed Child movie trilogy. And a website seemed to pick that up and it just went crazy. So our little podcast was mentioned, all the UK newspaper sites, NME, MTV, OK Magazine, Hello Magazine, across America, Europe.
My favourite was Russia, because seeing that
it was all in
little
Russian
symbols
writing
and
and
then
just
was in English. That was brilliant. That's my favourite.
Even to the point where J.K. Rowling came out and made an official statement saying it wasn't happening. Mm-hmm. It kind of... I wasn't sure what the hell was going on.
No. All I'll say about that is she denied Fantastic Beasts.
A lot of people are saying this means it's happening. If she's come out to deny it, then it's happening. But yes, it's kind of crazy. So if we picked up any new listeners, hello. If we haven't, well, we'll just carry on as normal. So I did want to introduce our guest. If you listen to my Universal Orlando fan podcast documentary that was episodes 2, 26, 27 and 28, you will know him. He is, and I'm going to use the word infamous. Is that all right?
I think infamous would be just fine.
Yeah.
You might know him from Orlando United and on Orlando United Radio. It is Andy, or better known as HateToFly. Hey, Andy.
How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I'm glad we managed to finally actually get this organised and sorted.
It is. It's a challenge to get everybody lined up across the pond. Mostly my fault. So I do apologize.
That time difference is a killer, and as I say, with internet's going down, we're screwed at that point.
That wasn't actually my fault.
Nope. No, that was mine.
Mr. Branson's, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'll blame him. Andy, basically, we discussed when off air when we were recording your segments for the fan documentary about talking about some of the sort of concepts and stuff for rides that nearly came to Universal Orlando.
Yeah.
Because you have your finger in those pies for a few years before you sort of stepped out of that side of things a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's some of the things that people don't realize is how many concepts for theme park attractions there truly are. So say, for instance, new this year, we got King Kong, correct? I mean, pretty common knowledge, right? What people don't realize is that particular concept was probably one of a dozen that they probably, in the initial part, were like, okay, how are we going to do this? Which one is going to be the best bang for our buck? Which one's going to be the most relevant? Which one is going to offer us the best versatility for what this particular theme park needs as far as height restriction, ride offerings? Is the IP going to be relatable to the guests at the current time? How will it do in terms of marketing? How will it do in terms of merchandise sales? Which merchandise sales is actually one of the key leaders nowadays. Ever since Harry Potter opened up. Holy smokes, has that changed tenfold? I mean, even Disney. I mean, Disney, who was the masters of merchandise for years and years and years with all of their intellectual properties, Universal just nailed it with Harry Potter in the theme park atmosphere. So
there's a friend of ours that calls Diagon Alley the world's biggest Harry Potter shopping mall.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And they're okay with that because you're going to spend an absolute ton of money. Guest spending, the amount of guest spending that went up, I can't give you an exact percentage, but it's enough for where they were just like, oh man, this is what we're talking about. You've got admission that basically is, paying for everything, and then you just get those merch and those food sales. I mean, that's just profit. So,
well, look at Butterbeer just straight off the bat. Didn't they say something like in Butterbeer sales alone, they paid for the original Hogsmeade in 6 months?
Oh, it was some outrageous number, because you figure, I want to say it was, it took, what did it take? 2.5, 3 months to hit, maybe not even that long to hit 1 million in Butterbeer sales.
That's crazy.
It was. I mean, for those who never experienced the original Hogsmeade opening summer, that Butterbeer cart, there only used to be one.
Right.
That line used to start there, and it would go all the way down to the castle, and you're just thinking to yourself, it's an hour wait to get a Butterbeer. Unbelievable. You look at Diagon Alley, and they created queues, which, funny enough, are never really used for the stores themselves, just because when that was planned, people were waiting, 45 minutes to an hour just to get in and buy a souvenir.
Yeah.
That in itself is absolute madness when you think about it. So those, like I said, that's one of the things that really contributes to how they pick from amongst all these concepts, and they narrow it down, and they start going down to a few, and then they start planning, and then they actually make blueprints and pitches for these attractions, and then they bring them to corporate leadership, and then that's ultimately who makes those decisions, is the corporate leaders. How is this going to affect business, which that's what a theme park is. It's a business.
It is.
So I assume that's why Universal tend to do things a bit quicker than Disney then, because that head level at Disney is a lot of people, whereas Universal, it's quite small.
That it's actually kind of funny, because speaking of that, you're absolutely correct. The management layer at Walt Disney Imagineering is dense, very dense. It's and that's why you look at, I always compare Disney to the United States government. Okay, it's kind of the same thing. All right, you look at the construct. It'd be awesome if we had the actual thing. I mean, this is all pure speculation, but based on their cost, even what they confirm that these lands cost, you've got Universal, who uses a lot of subcontractors and external companies to do certain things.
Right.
And those companies bid on those projects. So say, for instance, you've got, let's say, just for example, let's say you're looking at the new Incredible Hulk, okay? Obviously, you have B&M who's doing the roller coaster, okay? But there's all these other elements that are doing the queue itself. So what about like the lighting in the launch tunnel for the Incredible Hulk, okay? Don't know who got the bid, don't know how much it costs, okay? But I guarantee you that particular amount or that particular scene probably went to a dozen companies. And who can offer it, who has the best track record, and who can offer the best price. Whereas Disney, on the other hand, by the time it reaches that point and they do so much in-house with their own people, it costs 5 times the amount.
Wow.
So it's just, like I said, I compare it to the government. By the time it's gone through all the different layers of government, you've invested so much money in the design and engineering phase. You've inflated the cost beyond measure. So, Avatar is probably going to be a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm. I suppose the My Disney Experience and all of that stuff's probably a prime example of it as well.
That right there in itself, you look at all the other resorts and they're just like, well, we don't want no part of that. that was scary. But I will say that it, a lot of that was revolutionary technology. As much as I beat on it in the past, because they did that. They chose to do that instead of creating new attractions. But now they've got that all worked out. Obviously, Star Wars and Toy Story and Avatar. It's all coming back around finally. So, but that was revolutionary technology in an environment that still had old technology. I guarantee you, we don't see it as much, but with Universal, with this virtual queuing thing, that the Tapu Tapu at Volcano Bay, and it coming to Despicable Me and Shrek, and now Jimmy Fallon. Universal is gonna do their own version of FastPass Plus. I mean, it's right there in front of it. It's very, very obvious. So.
Yeah. I mean, Jim kind of brought it up when we spoke to him, that it's like the problem is that Universal need to capitalize on the people still coming down to Disney, and people going to Disney are so used to having that Magic Band and having the benefits of what that does for them there, that when they go to Universal, they want that same experience. So to keep those people coming over from Disney happy, Universal have to do something similar.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. And I think it speaks to how difficult and expensive that project really was for Disney. When you look at Universal, see, Universal's doing it at a brand new park, totally different. You're not interrupting day-to-day operations. They'll have all of that worked out before guests even step foot in the park. Totally different situation. But when you look at what they're doing at the parks with Despicable Me and soon to be Jimmy Fallon, this is uncharted territory. So you can definitely see how they're going to roll it out very, very slowly, instead of just throwing it out there and then having to learn the consequences the hard way and work all the bugs out, which took years for Disney. Yeah. So going to be very interesting regardless to see how it all unfolds, but very exciting nonetheless.
Absolutely. So Andy, before we started recording, one of the attractions, or one of the areas, I suppose, that made Tracy a very happy girl when you mentioned it was Zeus Landing, and specifically a Lorax attraction.
Yay!
yeah, absolutely. So the Lorax is actually one of those things where it was the thing that could almost be. I mean, if you look on, I always tell people Google is your friend, right? Mm-hmm. And you might hear that once or twice during this entire podcast. So you look back on it, and it seems like the attraction itself was extremely close to happening, right? And it's during a time frame where the other attraction that was highly, highly rumored at that time frame was Jurassic Park getting an expansion. And you have to look at it from the perspective of, we weren't going to get both. I think everybody thought we were going to get both. I mean, even myself at one point, I thought we were going to get both, just because of what Universal was doing at the studio side. You had Diagon Alley, you had Transformers, Despicable Me, you had the parade. That entire park was going through essentially a revolution. Springfield, the list goes on. And then while Islands of Adventure was kind of sitting a little bit dormant, even after it got one of the greatest theme park expansions of all time. And, and that's what they're looking at. So when it came down to it, the Lorax attraction was going to be essentially like, shocker, I know. I hope everybody's sitting down.
Wait for it.
Was going to be a 3D ride.
Oh, that's novel.
I know. I was just as shocked as you. But I think the coolest thing about the Lorax would have been the ride vehicles that you were, supposedly going to be in. And if you look at the concept art for the attraction, which obviously, if you're listening to this, you're not, but I'll describe it. You're going from scene to scene, and you're basically in sort of like a Segway type looking machine. And now whether or not you were actually going to be standing or not, probably not. That seems like it might be a massive safety issue. But the concept art shows adults standing. I would probably think that what it ended up would have been was you were going to ride on a scooter, okay? And I would imagine something along the lines of E.T. That's what I think probably would have happened. You would have been on a vehicle with, 8 to 12 people, and you'd have been sitting on a scooter, slow-moving ride that would have offered, animatronics as we, venture through the Illumination Entertainment version of the film, or the adaptation, if I may. And, different parts of the ride would have been, quote unquote, according, to what it appears, riding in and on balloons would have been part of it. So you'd have been riding on a scooter, and then all of a sudden, up onto a balloon, and that would have taken you to a next scene. It would have simulated flying. So anything that involves the terms universal and simulation. So what does that mean? That means water spritzers. That's a guarantee.
Of course.
Probably a scent effect somewhere in there. Maybe some flowers. Who knows? Some wind. Okay, because that's a.
It's missing fire. I'm not hearing fire at the moment. It's a universal attraction. We have to have fire.
It seems like, in reality, though, I think after Hollywood, I think they kind of were like, we're done with fire inside films, I think we could pretty much lay that to bed. They've gotten so good. You look at King Kong, they've gotten so good with the fake fire effect.
Yeah.
I think we've seen our last day of any new attraction with fire inside. But the actual exterior of the building, would have been basically an extension of the wonky buildings that line the streets. And it sounded like at one point they thought about the concept of actually relocating One Fish, Two Fish to kind of catty corner to where, or across the way from where If I Ran the Zoo was. And that was, just something that was kind of rumored, because if you had One Fish, Two Fish, you can imagine that the sight lines behind it would have been blocked. So expanding upon that would have been the best thing. You would have seen an additional store, probably wouldn't have seen an additional quick serve, not anything along the lines of Circus McGurkus as far as size and scale or anything like that, but you probably would have saw something, much smaller that would have sold, again, exactly.
Would it have been better than Circus McGurkus?
I think you could probably pretty much throw anything over there, and it would have been better than Circus McGurkus. I'm not a fan. I like the aesthetics of the of Circus McGurkus, but the food is no good.
You mean you don't like cheese-topped cardboard?
I just
I'm a big fan of theme park attractions or buildings that interact with other things.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, yes.
So how the High in the Sky Zeus trolley train ride goes through, and you can wave at people and vice versa.
And they don't wave back.
But it's just a shame that they don't. They didn't the last time we were there. There's not enough of that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The People Mover was the at the Magic Kingdom, that was the tone setter for that. So I hope one day, and I think we will see more stuff like that as these theme park lands get more integrated. So the Lorax. So what happened to the Lorax? I think it's pretty obvious. Okay, the Lorax in itself, whether you're a fan or not, was not popular enough to warrant the type of money it probably would have taken to build that scale of attraction. You have to look on your return on investment, okay? And that's what they're always going to look at is this going to be marketable? Is this going to add merchandise sales? Is this going to make people stop what they're doing, okay, and add a day to Islands of Adventure? And at the end of the day, it didn't. And they had two projects to really choose from at the very end. And one of them was the Lorax, and one of them was the big guy, King Kong. Mm-hmm. And, the powers that be, obviously, and I think still to this day, made the right call. Whether you like King Kong or not, or if you agree with the attraction and the 3D and, et cetera, it doesn't really matter, because in the end, especially with a new movie, that Skull Island movie that's coming out here in just a couple months, it was the right move to be marketable to that to that park and to be current. So,
Andy, do you think the decision to put Kong back in there was mainly obviously because of coming off the sort of, it's not the coattails because it's coming out after, but that movie, or do you think it was a bit of fan service in there as well? So
this is my personal opinion. This is not a little bit of like speculation or any type of inside information that I'm sharing when I speak to this. This is 100% my opinion. I think Comcast, NBC, Universal is going to be all about synergy. Okay, and I feel like they can say that this King Kong was not going to tie to this movie. I guarantee you, at some point, they wanted to tie it as far as relevance, and there was going to be some type of advertising.
Yeah.
The other aspect of it is they had. Have you guys? Have you done Kong 360 at Universal Studios Hollywood?
No, we haven't even done the one in Orlando yet.
Okay. All right. So, I didn't realize you guys haven't done the one in Orlando yet.
No,
that's right.
We haven't been out since 2015.
Since Horror Nights, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right. My fault here. So, let's see here. How do I word this then? Okay. Without, trying to spoil anything here. So I feel like when they had that fire in Hollywood and they had to recreate that attraction, they wanted to go digital because they felt like that type of movement of that type of scale would be far too expensive and far too unreliable to create AAs that are that large. So they created that Kong 360 attraction, which was marketed very well in Hollywood, and it did very well because people were clamoring for new attractions out there. They were just hurting for it. I really think you could have put anything out there and it would have posted, massive gains. And that's what Kong 360 in Hollywood did. I mean, it posted double-digit gains for that park, which at the time was huge for them. When we launched Harry Potter in Orlando in 2010, they launched the tram ride. It was a win-win. So I think they saw that they had that concept and they're thinking to themselves, okay, we have this plot of land. We have this concept. We probably can't really do anything for Jurassic Park because the movie is old. We can't really invest in it. We'll talk about Jurassic Park here in a minute, but I think it really boiled down to the fact that they had this technology that they wanted to use, and they thought to themselves, okay, well, we don't really have to pay too much money for that because we already pretty much know everything. We just have to alter some of the animation to go from a tram ride to the current RV vehicles. And then, a couple of sets here and there, boom, we're going to be good to go. We can get it up quick and fast. It'll be marketable and it'll be, aimed at this new ride. And I think the opening scene for the new King Kong ride speaks exactly to the new film. So they can deny it all they want, but you can't deny that the opening scene in the ride is the exact same as the scene in the trailer. So again, my personal opinion.
Sorry, Andy. I think they came out originally. You said that they wanted it was more based on Peter Jackson's Kong rather than the new one. And I think that I think the animation of Kong himself is a direct representation of that. Because if you look at the Kong animation for our Kong versus the Kong animation for this new movie, I think the route that they had to go was that King Kong in Peter Jackson's film was a I don't want to tell you exactly what size, but was a certain size that fit this type of attraction much, much better. Right. And then you had King Kong in this new film, the Skull Island film, which is much grander in scale. So if you look at those two things, they're probably thinking to themselves, all right, well, let's do aspects of the Skull Island movie and we'll have synergy. And then we'll put Peter Jackson's Kong. We'll do our own Kong, save a ton of money because that's not going to make any sense. We're going to have King Kong. I mean, he's going to be able to sneeze and blow the vehicle over. So I think that's all what it boils down to. Because it's funny, we're talking about concepts and stuff. Like you look at all the stuff that was rumored to be going around when Skull Island first got talked about that was... I think it was actually you that first started talking about Andy, if I remember rightly. But talking about, there was one point where it was rumoured that you were going to have a live team member on as like a tour guide on the truck itself that would get picked off the truck by Kong.
It's better than a dead
was
team
one
member.
Of the original.
Sorry.
I actually never started the AA live person physical interaction. I did obviously, say a couple of things about this ride long time ago. Again, I think this is what people don't realize is that there's so many different pitches for each, not just every project that they do, like I said earlier, when they get to pick from all these different ones that they want to do, whether it's a new concept or something that's been on the shelf for years. But then you also have different, variations of the same exact ride. And I think that really speaks to King Kong. And they had a specific version of the ride that they were looking at. And, obviously there were some things that they didn't like or they wanted to change, I just gotta be honest, because I don't really get it sometimes. Somebody somewhere along the line really wanted to add a lot more screens to the attraction. Now, whether it's to cut costs, I get it. But you had one variation of the ride that was obviously much more AA focused, and then you had a variation of the ride that it's present day variation. Whatever your preference is on you. I know what my preference is, what I was hoping it would be versus what we have today, and that's just my personal take on it. But yeah, again, so many different variations of these rides, and I think money is basically going to be the way it always comes out.
Of course it does. At the end of the day, they've got to. It's spending as little as you can to create a good product, meaning that your profits are going to be high. And it's I think you've talked about it on Orlando United Radio before, sort of saying that every single attraction will go in with, this is what we want to do, and then as it's going through the process of being built, we can't afford to do that, so we'll have to cut that out. I think Forbidden Journey is one of the ones that there's a lot of things being said about that were originally part of it that ended up getting cut due to budget reasons.
Yeah, well, let's segue into that. So let's talk about the Forbidden Journey, and let's talk about what Harry Potter, could have been, right? So, obviously, many moons ago, when universal admission was buy one get three free, and they were in dark times.
When was that?
It's called the pre-Potter days. So. For those who might be new to Universal fandom or just new to theme parks in general, Universal obviously was just one park, and it was just a parking lot, much like you would see at all the other Disney parks, just a flat surface parking lot, a theme park, and then that was it. And due to business, obviously it grew tenfold, and we have City Walk, and we have numerous hotels, and we had the addition of Islands of Adventure. And Islands of Adventure was marketed about as well as a shoe. Okay, it was terrible. Okay, It was terrible. People were actually coming to Orlando and had no idea the opening summer that this park was new. And actually, the misconception was that it was a theme park. It was a new land at Universal Studios Florida, because the way it was advertised was the name of the park was Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. Okay, so you have Universal Studios, that's the name of your park, okay? And then you've also now named your new park Universal Studios, then Islands of Adventure. So I can see the issue that was had there. So Islands of Adventure in itself and Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure did well, but it killed Universal Studios, the actual park itself. It just drained everybody. Nobody was buying 2 park passes. It was just one day. That's all it was. So after several years of Universal Studios taking the absolute beating that it did, and Disney thriving with its early 2000s creations and new additions to the park, which, funny enough, were its last up until recently.
Andy.
10 years later, right? But Universal went through a dark time, man. I mean, for those who probably know and have been following the park for a long time, 2006, 2007, during the recession, I mean, you could go to Islands of Adventure in like May, June, and I mean, there's nobody there. Okay, nobody. I mean, you're talking. If it was a 30-minute wait, you were like, man, it's busy today. I mean, that's the difference of what it was and what it is now.
we first went in 2004 and 2005, which is sort of getting into that dark time, and that was when we fell in love with the place. And then we took the kids over for the first time in 2009, and I was like, I'd been hyping it up for months that Islands of Adventure's amazing, it's fantastic. Yeah. And we walked in, and I was like,
we were flat, weren't we?
What happened? It had no atmosphere, it had no zing, it just felt flat.
Yeah. There were so many things that were changed, and it didn't help that the park itself had kind of changed owner several times, and the people that own the parks, I know GE and Blackstone. I mean, there were so many. Blackstone's known for basically buying a property, trying to milk it as much as they can, and then trying to sell it for a profit, but while cutting down costs tremendously. You can't do that. You can't do that. When Disney offers a product that is customer service focused and it's operationally focused, and then you in turn, cut back on every single aspect of that. I mean, there was a time where you'd be lucky, and I'm telling you right now, lucky to see a character out on the streets at Universal Studios.
Really?
They didn't exist. They just didn't exist. Everything was just cut. So along came a boy wizard, right? So there's many things that have to do with this, and obviously most of us will never get the total truth, and you'll get a lot of speculation, which most of this conversation is basically speculation, intelligent speculation, but speculation nonetheless. So you've got the boy wizard, all right, Mr. Harry Potter himself, all right, and then you have this company that's owned by him, that's run by a mouse, and then you have this company that is essentially struggling to pay their loan payments in Universal Studios. And yes, it was that bad. So they're fighting over Harry Potter. And thank goodness, I think what it all boiled down to was JK's approval and what she wanted to see it turn into. So you had Disney, who wanted to create their own, Harry Potter small land with an attraction, but mostly it was meet and greets where you could meet the characters. The thing about it is that Disney wanted to integrate Mickey Mouse into the world of Harry Potter, which JK, that ain't gonna happen. Are you kidding me? That lady's so protective of that franchise. It just never would have happened. So
they could have made him Scabbers.
Yeah.
There you go. Ron's new pet mouse, Mickey.
That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting. But you look at it, and so Disney was kind of on the outside looking in throughout this entire, negotiation process. Disney obviously holding the upper hand from a financial standpoint, but Disney wanted to do it their way, and they were in a time frame. You look at what they're doing with Avatar, and they're letting Cameron run wild with this, as you can tell by the inflated construction costs. But they learned a lesson with that, and they're letting Cameron be much more involved. Disney wanted to buy the rights to Harry Potter and do it exactly how they wanted to do it. Whereas Universal, who is desperate, and I'm telling you, desperate for this, they basically come up with a concept. Hey, this is what we want to do. We're going to let you, be 100% involved and have final say-so in this. And that was the ultimate factor. That's what decided, hey, this is how it's going to go down. So Universal obviously gets the Harry Potter rights. And then now it's, where do we put it? Okay, so we're going to put it in Islands of Adventure. Perfect. Okay, where are we going to put it in Islands of Adventure? Lost Continent. All right, Lost Continent it is. Okay. So how can we do this as cheap as possible? Because our rent's due and funds are looking a little tight. So the initial concept was basically Merlin's Woods, Merlin's Village in Lost Continent would have gotten a very, very light makeover, and it would have been themed to Harry Potter. You wouldn't have had Hogsmeade. You would have had Merlin's Village, okay? And then you would have had Hogwarts Castle itself, okay? And then that's it. That's it. There was nothing else to it. Lo and behold, JK, thank goodness, gets involved. Says this ain't going to work, yada, yada, yada. And as we move forward, the budget obviously increases. Corporate, it finally backs this up with a hefty sum. Hundreds of millions of dollars are involved, and we get what is present day Harry Potter. And now the land itself and Hogwarts Castle, beautiful. I don't think anybody would ever say to themselves that is not one of the most beautiful theme park lands ever created. It's darn near perfect. Yeah, you have your sightline issues. You're always going to have, some type of sightline issue when you have a condensed park, multiple attractions that are in excess of 100 feet, and then that's just the way it is, unfortunately. So
I think it's one of those things that's probably on a par with Cinderella's Castle that has brought theme park fans to tears.
Yes.
Yeah, it absolutely has. I still remember my first time I got into Harry Potter, the Wizarding World, before it opened. And I mean, I'm walking around with there's probably only about 200 people inside the actual land itself when I'm there. And I'm just walking around in sheer amazement. Like, you gotta be kidding me. This is absolutely bonkers. It was revolutionary at the time.
It was
absolutely revolutionary.
It's that first land that really put you in a place.
Immersed.
Yeah.
So, as you're going through Hogsmeade and you see what was, or what could have been with Merlin's village / I don't know, their variation of Hogsmeade. It was scary. It was scary bad. It was scary bad. If you've ever never seen the concept art for it, it's online. Google is your friend. Type in. I know I've posted it out there. Other websites have posted it several times over. Look at it. You might vomit when you look at it. So it was bad. All right. So obviously didn't work out. Thank goodness. We have this beautiful land. Now, the money, to a certain degree, didn't really change. Okay, so yeah, it got the amount of money that they're going to use obviously got a lot larger, but from the very day one to opening day. But in the grand scheme of things, when it came down to construction costs of how are we going to build Hogsmeade, how are we going to build this massive castle, and then how are we going to build this attraction plus retheme to other attractions and keep it accurate to JK's demands. So Hogsmeade didn't pass the test. So we got to pull money from elsewhere to make that happen. Where are we going to pull money from? Well, we're going to pull money from the ride. That's what we're going to do. So you look at the Forbidden Journey. And again, this is something that you can find online. I know I've talked about it in the past. The Forbidden Journey itself would have been much more physical based until the development of the carousel. And the carousel screens that are within the Forbidden Journey are, in the end, what changed the game for that attraction, while cutting cost tremendously. Okay, I'm talking tremendously. If you look online, and again, this was something that was posted. All the way back in like 2008 and 2009. This is not anything new, but we're going to add to it. American Scenic was one of the vendors that was contracted out to do a lot of the work in Forbidden Journey. I don't believe they won the bid, but large portions of their concept art for what they had planned did get online, so people were able to see. And a lot of the things that are in the Forbidden Journey today, totally different than what they had originally planned. Unfortunately, some things that would have been extremely cool were cut. And you get it. You've got a revolutionary ride system. You have massive theme park that has to continue to run and pay their bills, and it's so much to it. So you get it. You get the cost cutting, but the physical base, I mean, like actually, seeing like certain AAs, like a massive, dragon AA. And there's a really cool, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a permit, but when you apply for something, gosh, I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah. I know
When
what you mean.
when you have exclusive rights to it, a patent.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did bear with a
Couldn't
P.
think of it. I couldn't think of it. And this is also online. There would have been a scene. You guys have ridden the Forbidden Journey.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the dragon scene, and the dragon, you kind of come. The ride vehicle makes it seem like you fall into the dragon's lap. Essentially, the dragon opens his mouth, sprays you with, the hot steam, and you're like, "Wow, that was cool, very cool," right?
Just before we get going, you're absolutely going to kill this attraction for everyone now, aren't you, by telling everyone what it could have been?
Well, one of the concepts that was in this original attraction, and the patent's online, you can find it online. People have posted it before. It's very cool stuff. There would have been a clear, obviously massively durable piece of glass or plastic or whatever the case is, whatever type of material, doesn't list it, but whatever type of material, it was see-through, okay? And on the other side would have been the Dragon AA. And the whole point of it is that glass would have been almost invisible. Okay, I'm sure there probably would have been issues. Maybe that's why they ended up pulling it, because they're like,
oh, I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, so you would have lined up with that dragon, then that dragon would have actually spit out real flame. Okay, and it would have hit that glass, and it would have, obviously the glass would have blocked it. But in theory, I would imagine, it doesn't say this in the patent, but in theory, I would have, you'd think that probably somebody cast a spell to block the fire, and the fire is right there. Probably would have been one of the coolest theme park effects ever created. But I could see how, in so many different ways, that could be very bad.
It's one of those things as well, Andy, when you look at, like, one of the reasons that they got rid of Jaws was with the gas costs for the barge scene and stuff. So they probably looked at it from that point of view a little bit as well.
Very expensive. Absolutely. Very expensive. So I get it. Plus those vehicles, you figure they're resetting. I mean, that dragon that we currently have, that thing resets and goes again from the moment it starts its programming to the moment it ends to the moment it resets for the next RV. It's like 12 or 13 seconds.
Yeah.
And you think about that thing running for 12 hours a day, and the Forbidden Journey's ride reliability for a new attraction, nobody can touch that.
Yeah.
They did so well with that ride, and that ride system is darn near flawless. I'm sure there's so much work behind the scenes that they do for that darn thing, but the reliability.
They only did the first refurb on it, 2 months ago-ish? Not even that.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. They do 99% of the work after hours at night, every single night. So hats off to those guys, because they do a great job. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. We talked about, we talked about the Lorax, and we talked about how they picked King Kong over it. Now we've talked about Harry Potter, what Harry Potter could have been versus what Harry Potter is today. Then you look at something like, we'll talk about overall grand scheme planning. So let's talk about Jurassic Park. So Jurassic Park, 1990s, one of the biggest movies of all time. It's huge. It's great for a theme park. Universal Studios Hollywood unveils a massive new water ride. It completely changes everything as far as outdoor theme park attractions, water rides, movie-based theme park attractions, as well as completely changing the entire face of Universal Studios Hollywood. Completely changed all of it. Universal Studios Hollywood. They've had it rough. Glad that it's going to be changing the next couple of years, but man, anybody who says anything negative or Hollywood, oh, boo-hoo, Hollywood's getting this and we're not. Hey, they deserve everything that they get, because they put up with it for a long time of just pure, just stepchild status. Okay.
Yeah.
They just got ignored. It was bad. But anyways, you look at Jurassic Park at Islands of Adventure, and obviously, when they were designing Islands of Adventure, Jurassic Park was long in the theaters beforehand. The ride opened it at Universal Studios Hollywood long before Islands of Adventure opened. Okay, so you're looking at this from the perspective of, okay, how do we get Jurassic Park to Orlando, and how do we execute it? And I think this is something that people have to look at after we talk about this, I think this is something that people have to look at when we look at the third gate, and we'll get to that at the end of this. And why are they not building this, or why haven't they taken advantage of that? So think about it from this perspective. So I know you guys had Gary Goddard on here, and for those who don't know, Gary Goddard is like, I mean, the guy's like a theme park messiah. Okay, direct involvement with Spider-Man, Jurassic Park, Island of Adventure as a whole, Terminator 2. He's been involved with multiple projects, entire theme parks. His company's been involved in. Some of the things that guy thinks outside the box, and he thinks grand scale, game changing stuff. So I know that his company obviously involved in Universal Studios Hollywood. How do we bring it to Orlando? Now, this is before Islands of Adventure. We want to get Jurassic Park into Orlando. The original ride was to be very, very close to the same thing as Hollywood. It would have been a river adventure, would have had the same tower, would have had the, drop, would have had a little bit more expanded as far as the outdoor sections, as far as scenes in itself. But Jurassic Park River Adventure was originally supposed to go to Universal Studios in Florida, kind of right where, if you've ever been to Halloween Horror Nights, kind of right where half of Men in Black is, and half of that entire field where they keep a lot of that storage / Halloween Horror Nights tent setup and all that over there. It would have been direct access. You would have had the Jurassic Park gates, and the ride itself was going to be located right there. Corporate says, all right, let's see. Along comes Islands of Adventure. And Islands of Adventure is in the growing process of trying to assign intellectual properties to its theme park. So you have all of the islands, right? So you have Port Aventure, you have Dr. Seuss, you have Lost Continent, then you had Jurassic Park, you had Marvel Superhero Island, and then you had Toon Lagoon. So if you're looking at Islands of Adventure, during this entire design process, you look to your left, Marvel. Okay, Marvel was one of the first companies that was signed. It was signed, I believe, in like either 1990 or 1991.
Wow.
And Marvel was essentially like bankrupt. For those who, I'm not a huge comic person myself. I know when I say Marvel nowadays, all people do is think of the current Disney, films. And don't get me wrong, Disney's done a fantastic job of exploiting that entire franchise, and made some good movies, in the meantime. But Marvel, who was very protective of their characters years and years and years ago, was at the verge of just bankruptcy. So they, Universal, if you've ever looked over the contract, Universal, man, boy, that's like signing some professional football star that nobody knows about to like minimum wage salary. Okay. It just doesn't happen. So they signed that. Toon Lagoon in itself was never supposed to be Toon Lagoon. The Simpsons was what they wanted to put there. They wanted to put a Simpsons land there.
Really? I did not know that.
Yes. And then Groening and Fox and all them, Groening, as protective as he was of the franchise, didn't want any part of it. Wasn't willing to sell the characters yet. Fast forward 10 years, obviously we got Springfield and the Simpsons land, so he became a little bit more like, all right, I'm ready now. But yeah. So Toon Lagoon would have been sort of like Springfield, and you would have had, I think there was 2 rides that they had planned for it. It is what it is. And that was all part of when Universal was creating Cartoon Land. That was what Islands of Adventure was going to be, and it grew from cartoons into what it is now with the 5 theme islands or 6 or whatever it's up to now. But and then you let's go the other direction. So you have Dr. Seuss. Seuss's widow wanted no part of this.
Yeah.
Wanted absolutely no part of this. I think that's been very well documented. Can't blame her. Very protective of all the characters. Her husband created the books and everything. So Universal decides we're going to build a full mock-up of the carousel. And they do that, and they do it in a some sound stage somewhere, and they bring her in and they show her, look, this is what we want to do. She's obviously overjoyed with what they were capable of. Let Universal use the characters. Lost Continent pretty much has been Lost Continent for since day one. I mean, some different variations of what it was going to be aesthetically, but for the most part, the same. Then you have Jurassic Park. Okay, now Jurassic Park was one of those things where they're kind of like, well, maybe we could put it in Islands of Adventure. So that's that's what they decide to do, because it's a massive franchise, massive. One of the biggest franchises that they had planned on in Islands of Adventure was Jurassic Park. Again, part of where its location is. So it pulls everybody to the back of the park. Yeah. Jurassic Park does. So when they're going through the process, and everybody has seen the concept art. So you've seen concept art for the helicopter simulation ride, which essentially was Back to the Future. Let's just go with that. I mean, I don't think it would have been anywhere near along the lines of something that, like Star Tours or first generation simulator technology that they're using, that they were using or still using Hong Kong Disneyland. I don't even know what to say about that, but so terrible. But they obviously had a plan for that. Okay, then you had the River Adventure, and then you had the Jeep ride. Now, what people don't realize is that even though that Jeep ride concept art came out, they were never going to do both.
Yeah,
the Jeep ride died the day ground was broken on the River Adventure. There was never a plan to do both. The concept art came out. We all loved it. We were like, oh man, what could have been? You never would have got both because they followed kind of the same storyline.
Yeah.
So what were you going to do? You were going to survive the River Adventure, go 10 feet to the left, and then get on the Jeep, and the dinosaurs got loose again? And then the helicopter ride, the dinosaurs got loose again?
Yeah, it's a bit irresponsible.
So, in fairness, they've made 4 films at this point about that same thing.
Yeah.
Different islands, we're going to venture to. I could see the helicopter ride and you're venturing to the other island. But the thing about it in itself was that Jurassic Park is its own island.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with Isla Sorna or Isla Nublar. It's its own island. It's essentially Site C.
All right.
It's an on-site Jurassic Park, right? So that whole it's the theme park. It's the crappy part of Jurassic Park 2 in San Diego in Orlando. That's what it is. So that's where all that came from. So obviously we know what happened to that land, next to the River Adventure. Okay. It became Kong. For the longest time sat dormant. There were so many different concepts that came and went in that particular plot, most of which, we're not going to be able to talk about. I know there was pitches for certain rides, certain types of...
Well, I'd heard not too long ago.
Yeah, go ahead.
They were talking about doing basically in the Jurassic Park movie where you go through on those like little people movery things where they show the Mr. DNA and all that stuff that then would go into like an amber mine coaster was one of the concepts we heard.
So if you you can find some of this, again, Google is your friend. You can find some of this online. So basically, there was a concept where you had like an Omnimover style attraction where you would have gone, and it would have been located inside the Discovery Center downstairs. And it would have been, something along those lines. Not anything spectacular or anything like that. But Camp Jurassic, okay? Camp Jurassic would have been a lot different too, because why? Company GCI roller coasters, right? Or Gravity Group, okay? You have concept art, and it's GCI, and that's why I say GCI, because it's the trains that they were using, the Philadelphia Toboggan coaster trains, which was, notorious with GCI for so many years.
Yeah.
You would have had like an amber mine roller coaster, but they would have been wooden roller coasters, and nothing large scale, but you would have had 2 of them. And that was definitely part of what they at one time had pitched for Jurassic Park, and how big it was going to get. And then what happens? Economy takes a crap. Okay. Universal itself takes a crap. All right. And then even worse, you've got the Marines storming the beach like Normandy. Okay. In the 3rd film, which was a complete just nightmare of a film. It was just terrible. Jurassic, it didn't do anything for the franchise. It basically just put the nail in the coffin for the poor thing. So Jurassic Park sits dormant for years and continues to sit dormant for years up until they added carnival games.
Uh-huh. It does need something desperately in there.
Thank you, Harry Potter. But we talked about it just briefly before, and I think this is something that people have to realize, is that things sit on shelves for long, and you have to wait for when it's going to be right. Along comes a movie called Jurassic World, and I know people didn't have too many high expectations for the film, but what does it do? Ends up becoming one of what? I think it's number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, number 3 all time?
Way above everyone's expectations.
Oh, yeah.
Way above. It was multi-billion dollar, it was a $1 billion movie. I mean, I think it's number 3 all time, if I'm not mistaken now. I know Star Wars Force Awakens knocked it down, and something else was still, I think Avatar is above it, but yeah, huge film. Nobody knew it was going to be that big. Oh boy. So now you have, what are we going to do now? Okay. Mm-hmm. Here's what I think. And this is again, pure speculation. Okay. Just on my part of what I think you can do. So Islands of Adventure being a very landlocked park. Okay. There's only so much that they're going to be able to do at Islands of Adventure before they start having to tear stuff down. Harry Potter, and its Hogwarts Castle, which is basically viewable from about 97% of Jurassic Park. Yeah. And now you have Skull Island, which is, right behind Thunder Falls Terrace, which, whatever. I honestly think that we could really see Jurassic Park maybe go the way of the dodo and be eliminated from Islands of Adventure. And I know that sounds crazy in itself, but you have this movie that's Jurassic World, and then you have the sequel that's coming out, Jurassic Wars, or whatever they're going to call it.
Well, it's going to be a trilogy as well, so you've got 3 altogether.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like the best thing that they can do is, I think, one of 2 things. I think, one, the River Adventure is gone. I think that's one thing that could possibly happen, and then that they retheme the rest of Jurassic Park and Islands of Adventure to Jurassic World. Okay. The other thing is I think they use the 3rd gate, which I think is the most. I think that's the easiest way to do it, because you need these massive IPs to be able to draw people in. Wouldn't Absolutely. It be funny? Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny that Jurassic Park, the IP that drew people in for Islands of Adventure, ends up being the IP that draws people in for the 3rd gate? It'd be, kind of a passing of the torch type thing. So I think they look at that attraction that is the little glass ball in Jurassic World.
Gyrospheres, I do.
Oh, that thing. Yeah. That's got theme park ride written all over it. Okay?
The thing is, I'd heard not that long ago that there were concepts for it on the table for Universal. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that was what we'd heard sort of floating around on the internet.
I don't think that there's not a single theme park designer that hasn't already written it down on a napkin somewhere. How would I do this?
Do you think now when people make films, they make films with one eye on, we need to make this so it's easy to translate into a theme park ride attraction land?
You know what? I think the game has changed so much for them that with Harry Potter, I think they look at several aspects. I think they look at how is it relatable to current guests? Is it is it hot? Is it pop culture? Is it going to last? Is it going to be like a dynasty, or is it going to be like a bottle rocket? Right. So that's a huge aspect, because you're sending this much. Nintendo, perfect example. Yeah. That's a dynasty. All right. That's something that they're going to spend an absolute ton of money on across the world at 3 different resorts, because it's timeless. Right. So Jurassic Park, I really think is a timeless type attraction, especially with the reboots now. So you could look at that. But yes, I think they do look at it from the perspective of, in certain franchises, if it makes sense to build a fully immersive land, and we can get the return on investment, and we can do the merchandise, and we can do the themed food, and we can do the atmosphere right at a reasonable cost, absolutely. But if you have a brand that doesn't make much sense, Fast and Furious is a great example. Not a whole lot of Vin Diesel meet and greets probably coming to that. No. That's really just going to be a crowd eater, and we're going to move on to Nintendo. So,
because the reason I ask you that question, Andy, is I know when the Hobbit films came out, everyone was screaming for a Hobbit land with that barrel ride. It's like, there's your water ride there. They've laid it out in the film for you. It's there. Just do it. Yeah.
I've heard of concepts that, part of, the Toon Lagoon gets replaced with, the Hobbit, and, as much as we all love to see that, I forget the guy's name. Guy's a wacko, or the family's a wacko. The people that have the rights.
Oh yeah.
To,
still a Tolkien's, isn't it? It's his son. It's one of his sons or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he kicked off that he didn't even want people using like the Lord of the Rings stuff in pinball machines.
It's terrible to say this, but everybody's just hoping they go bankrupt or they get desperate. You would see if those theme park rights came on the table, maybe they already have, quietly, and nobody knows it. Doubt it. Yeah. But I really think you're talking all out bidding war. I could see Disney looking at that and being like, Iger going to them being like, I don't care how much it costs. If you don't come back to me with this, you're fired. I mean, like, and then I could definitely see, Universal, Steve, and if it, the Master Steve up there at Comcast, him doing the same thing. I don't care how much it costs. I'll sell half the damn company. That's this obviously not, but I mean, if that was to ever come out, man. Could you imagine?
Yeah, because that's exactly what you've said, Andy. That is something that, you prove how long ago those books were written, that it still has longevity, that people still love them today.
Oh, there's people that are 50, 60, 70 years old that have read these, maybe not 70, I don't know how old the book is, but I know there's definitely people in their 50s and 60s that have read these books. And I mean, it's timeless. I mean, they would just knock it out of the park. And as much as that family hates what Peter Jackson did with the films, they're not perfect, but I'll tell you what, man, the first trilogy of the Lord of the Rings, that was awesome. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. That would be perfect for a theme park. Could you imagine walking into Mordor? Holy smokes, man. Sauron's eye pointing at Disney World, just looking at Disney from a distance. That'd be awesome. But no, but again, to reiterate, I think they look at it from the perspective of, if it makes sense, let's go the Harry Potter route and build the fully immersive land.
Yeah, I'm just looking there. The Hobbit, actually, it's its 80th anniversary this year.
Okay, all right. I thought it was pretty old. I just couldn't remember.
21st of September, 1937, it was originally published.
Now, that sounds like a good year, then, this year, to announce a theme park.
That's what the third gate's going to be.
I'm thinking we're going to have to wait for a 100th anniversary, but I hope not.
Yeah. But
again, to finish off on the Jurassic Park thoughts, man, I think you look at it from the perspective of from a third gate. We're going to need IPs. IPs obviously control the theme park world now. People want to live the movies out much more than a ride. They want to visit, where are the characters from, how the character got there. They want the full experience. And I do too. Can't blame them. That's what I want. And that's what you guys want. That's what everybody wants. We want the full experience, spared no expense, and that's just the way it is. So I look at, there's a couple properties to me that I look at. Jurassic Park for, if a third gate ever does happen, I'll be shocked if it doesn't. I honestly will be. You don't just buy that much land for hotels. Sorry.
Yep.
I could see if it was like, 100 acres or something like that. And you're like, all right, well, we can put, a big resort down there and, run buses back and forth. It's going to be great. It'll be off-site, cheap hotels. We'll have some third party run it like we do Lowe's, whatever. No. Nah, you don't buy 400 acres and then just like, and you don't do it right after, the 500-foot coaster rains on your parade, and then you do it for spite. Oh, by the way, we just bought 400 acres right next door. We'll see in a few years. Jurassic Park is one that definitely sticks out. DreamWorks is something that I think is a guarantee. They have full rights to it now. How to Train Your Dragon.
It has to be.
I would love that.
Oh, that. Whew.
Yeah, it has to be.
It just kind of brings chills to you just to think about it. I think that's one that you look at. As much as we all want it, I don't think it happens, but man, I hope it does. Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. I think that happens. I also think you look at an expansion of what we already have. So what works? I think Harry Potter continues to grow. Does the Fantastic Beasts?
Yep.
Does that come into play? Does the next iteration of it? Does the continuation of that story? Does that lend itself to a theme park? And then finally, you have to look at something along the lines of oh my gosh, it just totally escaped me. How sad is that? The Universal monsters, cinematic universe, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
That in itself would be amazing to see. So if you think about it, if you were to line up, even if you take Lord of the Rings out, you do if the films do well. If the films do well for the monsters universe, that's going to happen. That's a guarantee. That will happen. Whether it's a ride or a land, those will come into the park.
And I think they will. You've got Tom Cruise attached. His films generally don't flop.
Yeah. The characters that they have lined up and the people that they have lined up for this is nothing short of amazing.
Yeah.
There's so much on the horizon, so it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think you still see Harry Potter continue to grow at both Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. Maybe Fantastic Beasts comes to a third gate because they're not gonna let that Harry Potter thing get too dull. That's just going to continue to grow. And then now you've got possibly the Cursed Child films. I don't follow Harry Potter too much to be completely honest.
Andy, you're not supposed to start that rumor off again. J.K. Rowling's already put it to bed.
She said no, so it can't be true.
I don't know if that ever happens. I don't know. We'll see, right? Usually when there's smoke, there's fire. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Maybe she's just not ready for it. Maybe she doesn't like the story. She has to rewrite it, and then she'll be like, okay, I like this. We can go ahead and do this. Who knows? But, someone that talented and someone that proud of what they've accomplished and with her type of work ethic, I don't see her ever really stopping.
No, I don't.
So I think she'll continue to build upon it, but only when the time is right, which again, I think that bodes well for the theme parks. Because if it's another 10 years before those come out, they're okay with that. Yeah. They're okay with that because they got so many fish to fry in the next 10 years and then boom, another Harry Potter ride. Oh, yeah. Money in the bank, son.
Yep.
So
they've probably told her, JK, can you just hold off a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah. I mean, the Universal world is a changing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. I've actually learned stuff that I didn't know tonight. It's been really, really interesting.
I've loved it.
We're going to have you back on again at some point.
Absolutely.
I posted on Twitter that we've got you on. I've already had what? This is going to be amazing.
It's a lot of fun. I enjoy this, but again, I can't stress enough that if you know how to find stuff, Google is your friend. If you know how to find stuff and you know how to look, there's so many different unique things that you can find. Toon Lagoon and its original, being the Simpsons, and then before that, Casper the Ghost having its own, having their own ride and their own franchise, Cartoon Land and Islands of Adventure. So there's so many things that you can find online of all these people that have created these concepts, and whether they're retired or they're subcontractors, they have all of this stuff that's out there that you can see. I mean, you can find pictures of Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios being built, actually inside, people, contractors and vendors that took pictures to show what they were able to accomplish. Or Springfield at Universal Studios Florida, what it was going to be and what it could have been. And I will say, for the most part, we'll take what we've got, because some of the other concepts that these people created, I don't know about that. But so many other things that you can look up online. And, a lot of this is just, piece together information. There's some speculation, there's some knowledge, and it's all a combination of how to interpret what was done. So very, very cool stuff out there. And I encourage anyone and everyone that loves this stuff to go out there and do some research and look around.
Definitely. Someone needs to write a book of concepts that never came. That would be awesome. Oh, Tracy's off right now.
Seth Kaversky, I'm looking at you. Because I'm not writing a book. I got no time for that. As much fun as it would be.
Cool. Right. Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Andy, it's been a pleasure having you on. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Go and follow Andy on Twitter at HateToFly. It's fun. The theme park stuff and then the non-theme park stuff. Yeah, it's cool. But definitely go and check him out. I assume you're still an active member on the Orlando United forums as well.
Yeah. Still over there. Been there forever. If you're interested in theme park conversation, please come by, check it out. It's a good community, great conversation. We keep a lot of the nonsense out of there. So encourage anybody to come on over and check it out.
And then go and subscribe to Orlando United Radio for when it comes back from its hiatus as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. On a little bit of a break right now, but we will be back.
Brilliant. Cool. Well, that's going to wrap up episode. What did we say? It was 232. So for Andy and Tracy, I've been Lee, and see you next week.
That's it for another unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on iTunes, and while you're there, please leave us a rating and a review. Listen to us on Stitcher, Google Play, and all your podcast apps. Email us with any questions or comments to podcast@uuopodcast.com, or even better, record your message at speakpipe.com/uuopodcast. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest, keyword UUO Podcast. Check out our blog for even more content at uuopodcast.com. Well, that's a wrap. See you next week.